People in Scandinavia living near the Iola car show grounds have been fighting a proposed sand mine there, saying it goes against the town's comprehensive plan.
And following a roughly 2.5-hour meeting on Wednesday evening, the Scandinavia Planning Commission voted to not recommend the permit application for that proposed project. Samantha Cavalli has more on what led commissioners to that decision.
The sand mine plan near Iola is a step closer to becoming no more after the Scandinavia Planning Commission denied a permit recommendation during its meeting Wednesday night. The vote by the commission was unanimous. Greg Ambrosius, a member of the No Iola Sand Mine Group, said the commission were asked 3 questions to determine their decision. Question 1, what are the existing uses of adjacent lands to the parcel and are they compatible? Question 2, is the proposal consistent with the town comprehensive plan? Question 3, is the proposal consistent with the town goals, objectives, and development strategies as found in the Town of Scandinavia comprehensive plan? Ambrosius argued 4 water wells, including his, were not identified in the permit.
The permit asks to mine 40 feet deep. How could this permit be granted when it could be digging lower than my well and possibly affecting my water quality? It's possible that all of our wells are fine, but it must be determined first before a permit can be granted.
Representatives with Iola Car Show argued the mines would provide funding back to the car show.
The car show old would be long gone if we hadn't made improvements and challenges and changes. What worked 20 years ago is not working today, it won't work in 5 years. So we have to continually look to improve how we do things.
The Planning Commission agreed the permit's proposal disregarded the town's comprehensive plan, ultimately deciding the permit did not meet any requirements that would better the area. Wednesday's vote was not a final decision, just a recommendation. The town board will hold a meeting Wednesday, May 10th to vote on its recommendation. Both recommendations will then go to the Wapaka County Zoning Committee, who will have the final say. Samantha Cavalli, Action 2 News, Scandinavia.